Good evening, Comrade President. We've been entertained by different cultural groups this evening. Basadi Bamapito, the Vintage Girls, the Eagles Academy, the Moses Mulelekwa Foundation, Abafaz Bengoma, Basadi Bamapito, Vintage Girls, Eagles Academy, all of them come from Tembisa. And Abafaz Bengoma come from Soweto. Let's again give them a warm round of applause. We're now going to proceed with our very brief program for the evening. I'm going to request that we all rise and sing the national anthem. Gentlemen, men, please take off your hats. Journalists and photographers, there's no better picture for anyone who's singing an anthem. Please join us, my baby, in singing the national anthem. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Tonight's event is a continuation of our program, a program that started early today with the plenary where we were all welcomed by the Deputy President of the African National Congress, and we received messages from all our BRICS political parties. And we also are aware that there's work that has been done, and it is ongoing through the various technical committees in preparation for tomorrow's. We'll be going again into commissions, and later we'll be reporting back to plenary, where we'll then adopt a declaration that will be presented before we close for the duration of this dialogue. We are also quite aware that we have various other organizations that the African National Congress, through the Secretary General, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, you are all invited to join us and be part of this historic proceeding, including those that have expressed an intention to join BRICS. It is happening on a day that is quite significant to the world as we celebrate the life of the father of our democracy, the leader of the African National Congress, Comrade Nelson Mandela. And we are gathered here. The proceedings are happening in a conference venue named after the President of the African National Congress, President Oliver Reginald Tambo. Without any further waste of time, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, allow me to invite Comrade President CYRIL Ramaphosa to come and give a keynote address. I'm not sure if he does have the key, but he will definitely have to do what is called a keynote address, because he does have notes on his iPad. May we all rise to welcome Comrade CYRIL Ramaphosa to the podium.
Thank you. Let's be seated, please. Program Director, First Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Your Excellencies, the Secretary General of the African National Congress, President Kgalema Motlanthe, former President and also former Deputy President of the African National Congress, leaders of BRICS members who are represented here, leaders of political parties across the globe and the continent, representatives of political parties, members of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, the leadership of the South African Communist Party, leadership of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, and the leadership of SANCO, and leaders, comrades and compatriots. I'm really glad to be here, and if I kept you waiting, I'm sorry. You can blame it on the 67 minutes that I had to spend commemorating Nelson Mandela's birthday in the southern tip of our country, and that is what I was doing whilst you were working here in the conference. I'm sure during that time you also spent your 67 minutes also remembering our icon, Nelson Mandela. Allow me to echo the welcome that you received from our Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, and others who also spoke throughout the day, and also to share my sincerest and deepest wishes for a successful dialogue. This is a very historic moment, and the African National Congress remains greatly honored to host the third BRICS Political Parties Plus dialogue in our country, and I'm told that we've got no less than 45 countries represented at this dialogue, and I truly applaud you for having come in such large numbers. Most importantly, your willingness to grace this occasion for us as the African National Congress is humbling, and it is also an indication of a commitment on your part to come and share views on how the world should unfold to offer the best to humanity. Once again, we are truly honored, also by your presence in our country. BRICS countries represent close to 40% of the population of the world, and working together we can truly be a catalytic progressive force for a more equal, inclusive, peaceful and just global order. As I said earlier today, we, as South Africans and indeed the world, celebrate the iconic father of our democracy, Nelson Mandela. This makes this dialogue significant because President Mandela was a man of peace who believed in the essence and substance of persuasion. Accordingly, Mandela Day continues to see many countries coming forward in various ways and manners to help those in need. This is a lesson to us that we should always seek and find ways to extricate humanity from the bondages of poverty, hunger, and inequality. The ANC, having regard to the relative strength of the influence of BRICS countries in advancing the common interests and common positions of the Global South, convenes this year's BRICS Political Parties Dialogue to discuss and inform the positions we will take to confront the opportunities as well as challenges before us. The world, and especially the developing world, must still fully deal with the ramifications of the COVID-19 pandemic. There were a number of harsh lessons, particularly for developing countries to learn, but we also learned a lot about solidarity, our own resilience, and how best we were able to act as a united bloc to confront this pandemic. And we also learned how best we can also become self-sufficient as we were dealing with the challenges of the pandemic. It is undeniable that there are challenges to multilateralism and global security, and that these tend to affect our continent as well, and the Global South much more adversely. It therefore becomes important for the parties to the BRICS Political Parties Plus dialogue to recommit to peace and stability, to support the role of a strengthened and reformed United Nations, and to reiterate our respect also for international law. It is within this context that the dialogue sets for itself a number of objectives that must form the cornerstone of discussions, and these would be the BRICS Africa Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth and Sustainable Development. The second would be an inclusive, multilateral and joint action process on promoting peace and security through dialogue and negotiations. The third would be how we define a path towards an equitable and developmental trade partnership for BRICS. And the fourth would be how best we share experiences on political party renewal and building when it comes to governance and the mutual learning that all of us have to have. And the fifth point could well be strengthen the institutional frameworks of BRICS and how we can deal with the issue of expanding the BRICS membership. On the issue of a BRICS Africa partnership for mutually accelerated growth and sustainable growth, we once again reaffirm our principles of solidarity, human rights, anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, and for us in Africa, African unity and Pan-Africanism. It is these principles that have sustained our own revolution as South Africans under the stewardship of the African National Congress. We share these principles with many parties across the continent and the world. South Africa continues to champion the interests of Africa within BRICS and has invited a number of African leaders to the BRICS summit next month. One of our priorities is to build a partnership between BRICS and the African continent with a view to unlocking mutually beneficial opportunities for increased trade, investment, and development. We are focusing in particular on opportunities that will generate economic growth on the continent, particularly through the African Continental Free Trade Area. There are great opportunities for BRICS countries to participate in areas such as infrastructure, development, and the AFCFTA, that treaty, by unlocking production and services on the continent and partnering with a variety of business enterprises, as well as getting our entrepreneurs and business people to be keen participants in the trade and investment that should ensue. Our continent is not only endowed with mineral resources, but also with the 4 seasons that put the continent at the center of enjoying nature to her fullest. At the same time, our continent and much of the global south are already disproportionately impacted by the effects of climate change. We are bearing the brunt of a crisis that we carry less responsibility for. We must therefore act in unison and demand that the industrialized countries that are most responsible in the global north for the climate change and who have contributed to the most to greenhouse gases and emissions must live up to the promises, the commitments that they have made to fund the protective actions we need to take to protect our people and our economies against the ravages caused by climate change. On the second point, the inclusive multilateral joint action on promoting peace and security through dialogue and negotiations. We firmly believe that conflicts are best resolved through dialogue and negotiations. Our own experience as a country that was subjected to colonialism and apartheid for years, where we were able to bring a resolution to this conflict through negotiations and dialogue. The current war that is raging in the Northern Hemisphere in the Ukraine impacts the continent in ways that require intervention from all peace-loving people. And we are very aware of the various interventions that a number of countries and leaders have been seeking to make to contribute to a peaceful resolution of this conflict. 7 African countries felt the need to make an intervention in this regard and traveled to Ukraine and Russia to go and put forward an African perspective on how best this conflict should be brought to an end. We did this because this continent of ours knows the devastating consequences of war, which are not limited to hunger. Therefore, advocating for peace is a matter that came fairly easily to us, that we should go forward and put 10 key elements of what could constitute a resolution to the war that's raging out there. We did this because as the African continent, we too are feeling the effects of the war that is taking place in that part of the world. Our food security was a major concern, the rising fuel prices, as well as the cost of living. And it was therefore felt by the 7 leaders of the 7 nations that we could not become just mere spectators, and we should go forward and put forward an African perspective. We did this mindful of other proposals, and we argued that our proposals should be seen as complementing and adding to a number of proposals that are already on the table. We're very mindful of proposals that have been put forward by one of our BRICS partner countries, China, as well as some proposals that had also been put forward by Brazil. And we argued that what we are putting forward should be seen as complementing those proposals as well. Yes, we did take this bold step to advocate for peace and dialogues with the parties involved in this conflict. Initially, there were efforts to not have this mission go ahead, but in the end, after a number of months of quiet diplomacy and discussions, we were able to proceed, having briefed a number of countries, including a number of countries on our own continent. We are proud of the fact that this initiative has been welcomed by many, and more especially welcomed by the Ukraine leaders, as well as the leaders in Russia, in that they did respond quite positively in terms of meeting the delegation that went to Ukraine and Russia, and we were well welcomed to both countries. And in the end, the seven country leaders, in a way, were able to achieve what many have not been able to do, to talk to both parties more or less at the same time, and to find great acceptance in having discussions about the current war that is raging there. The other area that needs serious attention as we look at global events is the need to transform global institutions, such as the United Nations, and in particular, the United Nations Security Council. This transformation should ensure that these institutions become more equitable and that countries have a sense that their views are also represented. It is also important that all major powers should prioritize the reform of the United Nations Security Council. This is one of the most important steps that we believe needs to be taken to transform some of the global institutions. This dialogue, as it continues even tomorrow, must put forward proposals to strengthen also our calls for the reform of the global financial institutions. The developing countries are unable to make meaningful development because of being underrepresented in those institutions, particularly when it comes to matters of dealing with finance and their debt and all those other related matters. The third point is about defining a path towards an equitable and developmental trade partnership for BRICS. The shift in global order is a product of hard work and insistence on unity of purpose as well. We have seen BRICS countries such as China building solid trade relations with many African countries, and this we welcome because China has been of great support to many countries on our continent, and we applaud China for the foreign policy that they have maintained. These relations are premised on equal and mutual partnerships. The other aspect is that these relations are punctuated by respect for the sovereignty of partner countries. It is important to state this aspect because for decades, such relations were only pivoted in one direction and hence resulted in the impoverishment and slow development in many countries on our continent. We are confident that this dialogue will emerge with proposals for increased cooperation and ensuring greater complementarity and the sharing of important lessons in sectors where each has capacity and strength, including in new technologies driven by big data, artificial intelligence, and the 4IR. It is vital that this forum should urge BRICS member countries to deepen economic cooperation and expand trade and investment in areas that can benefit economies throughout developing economy countries. On sharing experiences on political party renewal and governance and mutual learnings, the agency of progressive ideas in our political parties should be harnessed further to ensure that world peace is achieved. This dialogue of political parties is therefore going to deepen our understanding of how these principles can achieve a world order that future generations can embrace. Through the initiatives such as BRICS and others, we have been able to push back histories of prejudice and unipolarity as well. Political parties, after all, are central to stability of their societies and communities. We as political parties are expected to ensure that we address the challenges that the peoples of our countries are facing. Challenges such as hunger, poverty, inequality, so that we can improve the living conditions of our peoples, and where we can create good conditions for our economies to strive, and where we can support, yes, businesses in order for them to make good of their ventures and employ the peoples of our various countries. The fifth is how we can strengthen the institutional frameworks of BRICS, but more particularly on dealing with an issue such as expanding the BRICS membership. There are indications that many countries are showing interest in being part of BRICS. BRICS has emerged as an important forum in the world, and many countries are becoming more and more attracted to the idea of BRICS. There are many multilateral and bilateral settings which require closer scrutiny and understanding. Therefore, the show of interest in BRICS should also take full account of initiatives that are already in place. Indeed, we should avoid unnecessary duplications and make sure that we derive efficiencies wherever we find ourselves. We trust that this dialogue will develop proposals regarding, for instance, the criteria for expanding BRICS, and that it will also suggest modalities of expanding and give clear guidelines on how to further strengthen the BRICS institutional mechanism. As indicated earlier, political parties are powerful agents of social change and thus carry a very big and heavy responsibility. BRICS has become a model multilateral institution of equal partners. This structure has also remained steadfast in acknowledging that it needs to improve in a number of areas, and with great humility, this dialogue affords an opportunity to improve in areas where limitations exist. We therefore, as a BRICS political parties dialogue, have a really great opportunity to discuss all these matters that I have alluded to, and in discussing them, come up with really great proposals and solutions. I am informed, as I was not here all day, that there have been really wonderful discussions and contributions, and in true style of dialogues of this nature, tomorrow, as I hear, we will break into commissions where everybody will have an opportunity to make their inputs, to make their suggestions, and thereafter end up with a report back session, and then end with adopting a declaration. This is a precursor, this dialogue is a precursor to the BRICS summit that is going to be taking place later in August. We all look forward to what we would call a face-to-face or a physical summit, as we have not had one for almost 3 years. So this is going to be an important occasion for all the BRICS countries, but more importantly, for those others who are going to be participating in one shape, form, or other. As South Africa, as I indicated, as the host and the chair of BRICS, we have extended invitations to a number of countries who we hope will be able to honor these invitations and come through to our country and participate in this very, very historic summit that will be taking place. So your dialogue, in more ways than one, is therefore going to enrich the discussions that we are also going to have. As you may well know, there are more than 200 other meetings that are taking place in preparation for this summit. So this BRICS summit, therefore, is a summit at a very high level, which will give various participants an opportunity to put forward proposals and views that will obviously be also addressing the global geopolitical situation that we face, but not only limited to the politics, but to economies, to social life of the people who live in our various countries. We therefore look forward to the focus that this summit will have on our continent, because our continent needs a great deal of development, and having BRICS countries here so that we are able to showcase what our continent has to offer is for us a great opportunity. Now, as the African National Congress, we're really honored that you could come and participate in this dialogue and add to the wisdom and to the proposals that will go to shaping a very successful BRICS summit. So in many ways, you are really making a great contribution to this global summit that will be here, as you yourselves are global. It's not every day that we have up to 45 countries represented in a conference or in a dialogue of this nature. So as the ANC, we say Realeboha, which is thank you in Sesotho, Siyabonga, which is thank you in Zulu, Siyabulela, which is thank you in Xhosa, we say Dankie in Afrikaans, and I'm learning the sign language as I speak. Tomorrow we will be having a most wonderful occasion when we will be giving full and good recognition to the sign language and recognizing it as one of our official languages in South Africa. So I'm rather slow in my learnings. If I had learned the sign language fully, I would have been able to say thank you to you. Please show me how I do it. There you are. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We've also learned sign language, Comrade President. Thank you very much. We thank you. Comrade President, we're going to proceed, Excellencies. Because we had a long day, would wish to invite the Treasurer General of the ANC, Comrade Dr. Ramaphosa, to come and say a vote of thanks. And thereafter, we're going to do what we have come here for, to eat. So after Comrade Gwen, our Treasurer General, the first Treasurer General, a female Treasurer General of the ANC, we would love to invite you to enjoy our sumptuous meal. And thereafter, we'll invite Mafigi Zolo to also come and entertain us as we deal with what has brought us here this evening. Bon appetit. Comrade TG.
Thank you very much, Program Director, the first Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Nomvula Mokonyane. Mine is not to stand between you and dinner for any minute longer. It's just to appreciate your presence and indeed appreciate that a lot of work has been done today and there's still tomorrow to do more. Great appreciation goes to His Excellency, our President, President CYRIL Ramaphosa, the President of the African National Congress, and the President of the Republic of South Africa. We also want to thank the work that has been done by our Secretariat General, led by Secretary General of the ANC, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, and the NEC subcommittee members that have been working with him and the first DSG to make this event a success. We also want to appreciate and thank the leaders of the Alliance, the South African Communist Party, COSATU, and SANCO, who are also here, leaders of the Pan-African Congress, who are also here, leaders. Special thanks and gratitude goes to the leaders of the BRICS member countries, without whom BRICS would not have achieved what it has achieved. We really want to thank you for leadership, and I think in the morning and during the day, there was a reflection of the progress that has been made, including around the issue of the new development bank, what we refer to as the BRICS Bank, and many others. Leaders, particularly from Brazil, from Russia, from India, and indeed from China. Leaders of delegations from fraternal organizations, mainly from Africa, Middle East, Latin America, and Asia. The Dean of the Diplomatic Corps in South Africa, Excellencies, ambassadors, high commissioners, the heads of trade missions that are also present here today. I think a special words of gratitude. Really, we've been honored by the presence of our eminent leaders, former President Thabo Mbeki, former President of South Africa, former President of Nigeria, President Obasanjo, and former President of South Africa as well, President Kgalema Motlanthe. We are greatly, greatly honored. It shows that indeed we are still on the right track, and that your wisdom would also help us to build on the good work that we have done, especially in leading Africa and making sure that we have silenced many guns, maybe not as yet there, and we have also made sure that we achieved the Millennium Development Goals quite significantly, and we are on track to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, working with the support of friends such as within the BRICS family. Thank you very much, our leaders. This dinner is also graced by the following leaders from the business community, particularly in South Africa, but also from other countries who do business in South Africa. We want to say thank you very much for gracing especially this dinner tonight. Leaders from civil society organizations, from knowledge institutions, quite a number of universities and research institutions are here. Professionals, academic institutions that are also here. And we would have made a great mistake if we don't acknowledge what we refer to as the fourth estate, the media, who have been very gracious, professional, and who have informed the whole world that we have started well, we are hard at work, and indeed, as we represent more than 40% of the population of the world, there's great hope and joy and inspiration. So thank you very much for communicating the work that is being done. And just as I close and sit down, I want to say that earlier on we hosted the dialogue, preparations for this dialogue, a colloquium amongst a number of stakeholders, including young people, women, and all that. And they looked forward to this political dialogue and the summit next month. And they are really, really enthusiastic. And one positive thing, Comrade President Ramaphosa, as you say, it's now time to work and talk less, is that there was an announcement that there will be flights directly from South Africa to Brazil already in October. And that was a welcome development by the summit. And we are informed that there are also talks of introducing direct flights from all other, the rest of the BRICS countries as well. So the trade is, the key is opened. It's not only the key in the speech, but also in trading and doing business. And the other important thing that was raised is about the youthfulness of the African continent, and that for us to really unlock this demographic dividend, we need to invest in skills and also ensuring that we beneficiate the various minerals and economic endowments that Africa has. This positivity, let it encourage us to work even harder and smarter tomorrow and emerge here indeed ready to take this summit or this dialogue to the next level, and indeed that the summit takes the country, the continent, and the world to indeed a better dispensation for future generations. I thank you. Enjoy the dinner.
This is who we are. More than 60 million different voices echoing in harmony from the southernmost part of the continent. The ordinary people have carved their names in an extraordinary history by showing the world that peace is always better than war. Our reach is not limited by our borders, bringing joy in people's hearts and a spark of rhythm to their moves. This is the welcome home of opportunity, inspiring millions to look here in search of a better life, and sharing our best with the world. We are home to undulating mountains, flowers, endless seas, the beautiful animal kingdom, and the ever-changing seasons that color our world. We are the birthplace of humanity and the showcase of human excellence. We believe in South Africa.
I told you.
We're inspired by our victims of the past and our strong institutions to overcome the challenges of today and build a better tomorrow. This is who we are. South Africa. South Africa, inspiring new ways.
This is a message by BRICS South Africa.
Excellencies, representatives of the various political parties, there is a saying in Setswana